Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Confessions of an Mom. Today, this month is Autism Awareness Month, so I have moms, educators, and just all the different types of people that are involved in the autism community coming on the podcast this month. Today, I have a mom. Her name is Vida. We're going to talk with her briefly and learn more about her journey with her son. And her son is 19 years old. Which you all know, I love to talk to moms with kids that are older on the spectrum. That way, I can kind of get more advice and be able to give you all more advice from them. Hi, Miss Vida. How are you?
Hi, Amanda. I'm fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. And thank you for coming on to discuss your journey with us.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Of course. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. Can you go ahead and start off by telling us a little bit about you and your son's journey with autism?
Sure. So, my name is Vidya, and I live in Tampa with my husband, Ben, and our two boys. The older one is 22. He's in the university, and our younger son is 19. He's on the autism spectrum. And he's the face behind my community online, which is Autism Family Story. So, to tell you a little bit about our journey in the world of autism started 18 years ago when my son was around 2 years of age, even though he showed signs of regression around 18 months of age and got a formal diagnosis at 3 years of age. So, that was pretty long wait because we used to live in Canada at that time, and the wait for a diagnosis was almost a year because there was a long wait list. So that's how our journey in the world of autism started. And I'm here to build a community for fellow autism parents because I know firsthand how lonely and isolating parenting a child with autism can be. And I didn't want parents to go through the same thing which we went through, in because in our times there was no social media, there was no information at your fingertips like now. No podcasts, no blogs, so there was very less information available. So it was like very lonely and very isolating. So that was the whole idea behind starting Autism Family Story. And just a little bit about my son's journey, how we started. He was developing typically till around 18 months of age. And around 18 months of age, he started having a regression, which I'm sure you will be familiar with. Lots of families, they report that he was not responding to his name. He was not giving us eye contact. He was walking on his toes and not playing with toys. He preferred being alone. And the most important, he stopped babbling because he had just started babbling at that time.
Mhm.
And those were all the signs which he showed. But for me and my husband, we didn't know about autism, never heard about it. So it was my mother in law, who is a special needs teacher in the US, who first brought it to our attention of the possibility of our son being on the autism spectrum. So that's how our journey in the world of autism started.
Okay. And that's amazing that you were able to have your mother-in-law, being a special education teacher. Because, like you say, back then there were no social media, no podcasts talking about autism. And you all kind of had to navigate that world by yourself because it wasn't talked about as much as it's talked about now.
That's correct.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad you all had her. How did you feel when you originally got your child's diagnosis?
Amanda, when I got my son's diagnosis in the beginning, like every other parent, I was in denial as well. Because, when my mother in law first brought up the possibility of him being on the autism spectrum, I was thinking to myself, maybe she's wrong. Maybe it's just a delayed development because I didn't know what autism was, never familiar about all those signs. But as time went by and we were waiting for the diagnosis, it started getting more and more evident that he was indeed on the spectrum. So, went through a period of denial, and also we started questioning ourselves like, what did we do wrong? Why did my son get this diagnosis? What are the things we could have done better? So, those were the thoughts which went through when we got the autism diagnosis. Because I don't know about now, Amanda, but back in the day when we got the diagnosis, we were just given a diagnosis. My son was diagnosed with severe autism with
Uh-huh.
no roadmap. We were
Yeah.
just told a list of things, which he won't be able to do. Nobody told us, what help was available, what are the things he will be able to do, or what are the things we can do to help him. So, it was like kind of we were on our own. And I think that was very scary part. And I used to always think, how are we going to navigate this journey? Because this was a lifelong diagnosis which was given to us. And we absolutely had no idea what we were going to do, how we were going to help him. So those were the exact feelings when we got the diagnosis.
Yeah. And that's completely understandable. Just to piggyback, when we got our diagnosis, and a lot of moms say this, they gave us the diagnosis and pretty much gave us paperwork and was like, you can find a facility. We advise this, that, and the third, like speech, occupational, ABA therapy,
Mhm.
and that was it. Like, and then we go on about our way pretty much. I still think it's a lack of support once we get the diagnosis. The only difference though now is they tell us it's a possibility that the kid can, do certain things. For us, it was he probably won't talk, so let's look at other avenues. So that was the only one of can't and basic sports things that I was really wanted him to do. So it's similar, but then it's kind of not, but
I think there's a little more awareness now, even
yeah,
on the doctors. So I guess, I hope that moving forward, it will be a little easier for parents, for the doctors to talk to the parents, give them a little roadmap, give them a little bit of advice instead of just handing a paper and here is the
yeah,
diagnosis and just leaving them on their own. I guess hopefully, things are getting better now with little more awareness on part of the society.
correct. And I know when we talked over the phone, you mentioned that your community is for everyone, but it really takes off in the Indian community. Did you notice a difference? Like, because I know each culture is different when it comes to autism. How does it differ, in the Indian community?
So, like you said, we are originally from India. We
Okay.
moved to Canada almost around 25 years ago, and now we live in the United States. So, the big thing, Amanda, in our Indian culture, having a child with autism or any other special needs carries a lot of stigma. So,
Yeah.
parents are really scared. They are so scared to talk about their child's diagnosis, even to their closest family and friends, because they don't know whether their child will be accepted. So, back in the day, it was very, very hard in India. I don't think autism was even, heard of back in the day. Of course, we had children with special needs like Down syndrome and maybe
Yeah.
cerebral palsy, but autism was something we had never heard about. So, fortunately for us, being in this part of the world, I never let that affect me. According to our culture, but we were very open right from the beginning
Yeah.
about my son's diagnosis. We never tried to hide it from anyone, and I was very open. Like me and my husband, we were very open about our son's diagnosis. I think that helped a lot because in the West, there was a little more awareness. Even though 18 years back, it was not that much like today, but still, people were at least familiar with autism, and it was not considered as a stigma. So I think that kind of helped us a lot.
That's great. I'm glad that your son were able to have parents like you all to be so open. And even like in our culture, it's still some shame. I can say they don't want to talk about it or they don't want to admit it. So I can get that. Do you think that now, since time has developed, that the Indian culture they're more accepting of autism now?
I think there is definitely more improvement now because there is more autism awareness now in India. Lots of children in India are also getting diagnosed with autism, and we do have a lot of autism parents even on social media sharing their journey, talking about their kids. So I think there is a beginning that there is a little more awareness. And in terms of acceptance, I think that's going to take some more time. I think that's going to need a lot more work on part of parents, But I
Yeah.
guess, if you compare it to back in the day, say 20, maybe 25 years ago, definitely there is more awareness. And I hope there is more acceptance as well, or at least it will come in times to come.
Yeah. And I think that's like anywhere, like the acceptance level has to get better, and it does start, with the parents. Your son is nonverbal, correct? And he uses the AAC
That's
device.
yeah.
Okay. How are y'all introduced to the AAC device?
So my son, as I said, he first lost his speech around 2 years of age when he started babbling. And then, Amanda, after 2 years, he was mute, there was nothing, no sounds, no words, nothing. And that around, I think around between 4 and 5 years of age, there was an explosion of words, just single words. But, we were hearing new words every single day. And I think that was so promising and encouraging. But then again, after a few months, that stopped as well. So what happened is we had a speech therapist who used to come home for therapy. And when he heard that my son lost his words a second time, he was
Mhm.
very concerned. And he advised us to take advice from a neurologist right away, which we did. But, like everything, we had to wait for the appointment, then the wait list. And then around the age of 7, my son got a second diagnosis of seizures. So he got diagnosed at 7 with very rare form of seizures, which at that time was called Landau-Kleffner syndrome. It's like 1 in 200,000 kids get that. So that's how my son lost his words, and he never spoke after that. What happened is when he was younger, we introduced him to PECs. I'm sure you are familiar with
Yeah.
PECs. A lot of parents do that. So even we got introduced to PECs, and we started him on PECs. Around 7 years of age is the time we learned about AAC. For those people who don't know, it stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And then around 7 is the time my son got introduced to AAC. And that's how our journey started in the world of AAC. But had I known about it when he was much younger, because
Okay.
there is no age requirement, you can introduce it to a child as young as 2. So there
Yeah.
is no age requirement for that. I would have started him on AAC way back, but still, we started at around 7. And
Okay.
they in Canada there is a program which is called ADP funding. So
Yeah.
they give us funding for the assistive devices. So my son was on the wait list for that program. And then they trialed out a few devices. They tried lamp, which is the speech generating device, and a couple of AAC apps, like I'm sure you're familiar with Proloco to go
Yeah.
and touch chat. So that's how my son got introduced to the AAC device. So that's how the journey with the AAC started.
Perfect. And that's y'all form of communication, and he communicates well. How long did it take him to like learn, like to communicate with it?
It took long because, as AAC, that's a new language for our children. The
Yeah.
first thing is, I had to learn because, we have to model the using the language for them. It's called aided input. So I had to basically learn to first uh, model the device to him, how to navigate the device, how to start requesting. So that went on for a few months. And with the speech therapist, we only got a limited number of sessions. So in which, I had the opportunity to learn about the device, ask questions, learn about how do I make changes, if I need to add some words, if I need to take out something. So that took time. But I think within a few months, my son pretty much took to the AAC, and he started, requesting for things, which was very encouraging. And I think it was a process because, we don't only communicate for requesting. So we had to also model for him the different functions of communication. So my son really took very well to the AAC, and he communicates, he knows how to navigate the device because, motor planning is so important for the AAC.
Yeah.
So he can navigate the device, no problem. If he wants something, if he wants to say something, he'll go to the device and he will do that. The problem which we found is, and even now, till now, we struggle with sometimes, is initiating the use of the device. I'm sure you must have heard that from
Yeah.
parents, but, it's always available to him, And it is getting better, but I think that was the biggest hurdle, which we had to cross. But otherwise, he knows the motor plan, he knows where to find the words. My son is nonverbal, as you know, but accidentally I even discovered that he's a reader, he can read. And he
Oh,
started even typing on the AAC on the keyboard when the
okay.
words were not available, because we cannot program every single word on the
Yeah.
device. So that's why literacy is so important for our children, to expose them to the letterboard, to expose them to the letters. So he started typing on the AAC device when the words were not available. So
Okay.
we are, it's still a work in progress. So we got introduced to Proloco to go. That's what we started with. First
Okay.
couple of years was great, but then with the updates and we being discharged from the program, it started getting harder for me to keep up with it. So in 2020, I requested for a new AAC app. So we got introduced to Touch
Oh,
Chat Word Power. So now my son uses Touch Chat Word Power and he's getting pretty confident with it.
that's amazing. We have a AAC device, like you say, the I feel like sometimes my son forgets that he has that as his form of communication. So our thing that we're working on now is you have a device, go, use it. So that's our biggest challenge. But once he gets it, he knows where to go and things like that. But I'm going to take your advice and I am going to start pulling up the letterboard and typing stuff in myself. That way he would eventually pick up on it. So thank you
That's
for that.
a great strategy. Your every AAC device has a keyboard. So I think
Mhm.
that's a great way to show our kids that, what, even though the word is not programmed, they can still access it, they can still type it, and they
Yeah.
can still communicate their message. I think that's so powerful. And multiple times, I don't know if you got a chance to go through my Instagram feed, but I keep posting about different ways how my son self advocates for himself with his AAC. And that's very encouraging because that's his voice. And I think without that, we wouldn't have even known that, he has so much information and there was no way otherwise for him to express that. So my thing to parents is, if you're on the fence, waiting to introduce the device, whether you're thinking, whether that will hinder their speech, whether you should wait, my suggestion is don't wait, go ahead, go with the AAC device. And there is research showing that many children with AAC device also start speaking.
Speaking of
Doesn't
speaking.
work for every child, but
Yeah.
speech is not the only form of communication, it is
Right.
multimodal. So my advice is go for the AAC, because the last thing we want for our children is to have anxiety and frustration and behaviors from not being able to communicate. So the sooner we can set up a communication system, I think it is going to help them.
Yes, and thank you for that advice because that was going to be my next question. Like, what do you advise parents? Because I know parents, they're like, no, I don't want an AAC device because I don't want it to hinder my kid from talking. And I've been told that from the speech therapist, it's like you say, not all kids, but some kids they develop from the AAC device. So thank you for saying that. So your son is 19. um how is it as far as him wanting to be independent? Because I had a talk with my baby's speech therapist and she said we have him really on a good plan for now, and then when puberty hits we got another challenge. Did you go through that challenge with your son, or and how was that?
So we are, working towards it. Like, when we started the journey 18 years ago, we were starting like a brand new journey, not knowing anything in the world of autism. Now my son is 19, he'll be 20 this year. He
Mhm.
hit puberty, and, in another couple of years, he's going to age out of the school system. So
Yeah.
now, it's a new learning phase for us. So, putting things in place. We applied for the guardianship. As you know, it's so important.
Mhm.
Once your child turns 18, you need to have that guardianship. And now we are working on, transition programs, and, just working on seeing what are the options available. So when he does graduate and age out of the school system in 2 years, we don't want to be left with nothing. What are we going to do? So now this is for us, it's navigating the journey all over once again, because there is so much information out there. But the thing is, it's difficult to get proper access, so you have to do a lot of research, talk to
Yeah.
people. So we are kind of doing that now, finding out different programs, what's available. Haven't been able to find anything, but I'm sure I will soon, because I'm talking to a few people,
Okay.
and trying to see if we can put like a plan of action in place. And then also we are working on life skills as well, because they are so important as well. So activities of daily living, for sure, every parent, every child, we all are working on that. But also maybe some vocational skills, is there any programs available to teach those kinds of skills? So hopefully, one day he can have a job, even if it's part
Yeah.
time, so that is very important for their good quality of life. And I think so it's a totally new journey, and right now we are in the middle of it, and working towards it. But I hope I can get some more information so I can share it with other parents who
Yeah.
are also going through it at the same time.
And we would greatly appreciate it. And really quick, can you explain what the guardianship is for those? I don't know, but I have been seeing it a lot lately. A lot of people are talking about making sure that guardianship is in place. Can you express and tell us what that is?
So, as you know, once a child hits 18 years of age, they are considered to be adults. And, they think that they can make the decisions for themselves. But we know that some of our children, they cannot do that. So, in order for us parents to continue making decisions on their behalf, we have to formally go and apply for a guardianship. So that way, that gives us the ability to make decisions on behalf of our child. So that's what guardianship is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Because like I say, I have been, and of course, it's Autism Awareness Month, so you see a lot of different things, and that guardianship has been one that keeps popping up on my timeline. And I was like, I need to investigate this because I keep seeing it. So I'm like, it's a reason. So let's talk about you and how you advocate, and how did you get into advocating?
So when my son, was diagnosed
Mhm.
18, like almost 17 years ago, back in the day, Amanda, I felt very lonely. We were living in a foreign country. There was no family. There was no friends. There was no support. So I was very lonely. Yes, my mother-in-law was there and she was a big support, and I'll be very thankful for that. But she used to live in the US and they used to visit us only once a year in the summer holidays. But the rest of the time, I was on my own. So I knew firsthand. I felt so lost. I didn't know anyone I could go and speak to or anything like that, because it helps, when you know someone who is going through the same thing and they are facing the same challenges like you can talk it out with them. But I didn't have that kind of a support. And I'm sure many parents out here who have children who were diagnosed back in the day didn't have that either. So that's how, also the other thing what made me become an advocate is my son is nonverbal. So there were so many misconceptions. When people used to meet him, they used to only see him for his lack of speech. They used to think he does not understand. They used to think he's not intelligent, and he's not capable of making progress. And as a mother, for me, that was extremely hurtful, because I knew none of those things were true, because we all have our own strengths and challenges, and my son, like us, had his own. So, and the sad part, Amanda, is it was not only the parents or other people, or but even the professionals. And even the professionals, when they did not believe in my son, that was very hard. You won't even believe this, but at one point of time, Amanda, I used to make videos to show his teachers and therapists what my son was capable of doing. Because when I told them what he was capable of doing, I don't think they believed me. And I think that was the most heartbreaking thing as a parent. But once they saw on the video what my son was capable of, they slowly came on board. So I'm very thankful that they understood, and they where I was coming from. And that's the time I made the decision that I was going to advocate for my son and for all the children, who are on the autism spectrum, who are nonverbal, because I didn't want any other parent to go through what I went through. I've heard people talk about my son in front of him, thinking he won't understand.
Understand.
And, my son was, incapable of defending himself. But as a parent, I was not going to sit there and keep quiet. I was his voice and I was going to defend my son, which I'm doing till now. And I'm sure I'm going to do this. We have to do this lifelong,
Yeah.
because this is not a one time thing. This continues. So that's the reason I decided to become an advocate, and that's how my journey in the world of autism advocacy started, with my own son. And now I advocate for my son and all other children as well through my autism family story page.
Yeah. And that kind of brings tears to my eyes when you say the professionals didn't believe you. Because I remember originally when I got my baby's diagnosis, it hurts my heart so bad. But his pediatrician, she asked me, she said, well, did he ever talk, or do you think he was talking? And I was like, he spoke. And I couldn't find a video at that moment. Oh God. I couldn't find the video at the moment because I was like, is she really asking me this? Like, I'm telling you, my kid was speaking plenty of words. And it broke my heart to the point that I went home and I had her phone numbers, like her
Mhm.
personal cell number. I sent her all of those videos. And I think that's what ruined our relationship from the start because he has a new pediatrician. She wasn't believing me. And I'm like, why do I have to show her videos to prove a point? Like,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, that I can understand, and I can see how emotional, I was
yeah,
exactly in the same shoes. And I always say, when children are verbal, they don't have to prove their intelligence, they don't have to prove anything. But it's our non-verbal children, when they do something, then we have to prove it to people that yes, our children are capable of doing that. And I think that was very, very hurtful, and I can understand you went
it
through a similar
was.
experience.
And even the second time, you know how they do the 4-year-old visit, 3-year-old visit.
Hmm.
She was she was like, "Oh, you have a lot of stuff on this paper marked that he's doing." I was like, "I have the videos prepared for you now." I said, "He has autism, but he does a lot. Like he's very intelligent, and because my son, he watches you do stuff and he can do it right after. That's his skill."
That's amazing.
And yeah, and so it really hurt me that she was like, "Is he really potty trained?" I was like, "Yeah, here's the video." And I asked her, I said, "Are you reading the notes from the ABA Center? Because they'll tell you this same stuff as well." So I had to separate from her because it hurts when a professional says that. I get it.
Yeah,
So
it was very hurtful. So at that time I decided that nobody was going to talk about my son like that, because they know, say, and my son exactly is the same way. We think he's not paying attention because he never gives eye contact. Now he's giving a little more, but he was picking up everything, he was learning all the time. He
yeah,
taught himself to read. you know I didn't have to
amazing.
teach him, he taught himself to read. So he knows so much. It's just that we have to give them a way to get it out to us. And I think as parents, that's the biggest thing is we have to believe in our children, because if we don't, nobody else will. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest message for all parents out there.
And I love that message. Looking back now, like from the beginning of your journey to now, what would you tell yourself?
Looking back, I will say this journey is hard. We have come a long way. My son has come a long way. I have come a long way. I have developed a lot. I didn't know nothing about autism 18 years ago. Today I'm helping people through my blog, through my podcast. And this journey is hard. you know you learn along the way. You don't have the answers right at the beginning, but you do learn along the way. Your child will teach you about it. And every family has a different story. And our children, I think they are our biggest teachers. And I think that's what I have learned more about autism from my own son than any book could have taught me. So I think it's a journey and we all have to go through it. in our own way, and we have to keep learning. Learning should never stop, because even now, with so much information out there, I'm still learning every single day. So I think as a parent, learning should never stop, and we have to keep on going and keep on learning.
Yes, perfect. And what advice do you give us new moms?
New moms, I want to give the advice is, take one day at a time. That's the main thing, because I know we all are so worried about our children's future. We are always thinking what's going to happen to them when we are not here. And that's a very valid question. We all, I'm sure you, me, we all included, we have those thoughts. They are always there in the back of the mind. But what I want to tell a new mom is that, take one day at a time. Believe in your child, believe in yourself. And the biggest thing is, work with your child. You have to be involved with your child's progress. You cannot just leave everything to the parents, leave everything to the teachers or the therapist. You have to get involved with your child, and that's when you will see the greatest progress. So that's my biggest advice to the mothers. And you know what? I know it's a very hard and emotional period. So if you need some time to grieve, it's okay. You can take some time to grieve, but don't sit there and linger over it, because early intervention is very, very crucial for our children. So the sooner you can accept the diagnosis, the sooner you can put services and supports in place to help your child.
You are giving out some amazing advice today. Like, thank you for that. And that's why I love to talk to moms and to have this available for the community, because getting everybody's point of view makes a difference. And the rawness and the realness is what we need in the community versus judgment. And the fact that you understand, like, yeah, you're going to grieve, but get up and take advantage of the treatments and get the help and the services that your child need, versus someone telling you don't grieve, why are you grieving? I think that is so like unhuman to say, to
Exactly.
someone, because we
Helpful.
are moms and we have
Yeah.
feelings.
I
Mm,
always say, Amanda, I always say we all are in this together. And
yeah.
together we can do so much more for our community, for our children. Alone we can only do so much, but together we can do a lot. So, and we all are in this together. So I believe, instead of judging each other, like you said, everybody has difference of opinions. We should respect that, and collectively work together in order to increase the awareness and advocating for our children.
Yes. And what is your confession as an autism mom?
Confession is, sometimes I believe, have I done enough? Is there something more I could have done? I know I did everything, whatever I could. I went back to school, I studied so I could help my son. uh, you know I know in my mind, I know that I have done everything, and I'm going to still do till I'm here, everything to help my son. But sometimes I just worry, was there anything else I could have done? That's my honest confession. And hopefully, maybe one day I will get that answer. I don't know at this time, but that's what sometimes I keep thinking, have I done everything? And is there anything which I could have done differently? Or maybe I could have done, something else. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I think we can all relate to that, because we have I don't care what anybody says, every mom has that moment. And thank you for being truthful about that. So I have enjoyed our talk today. I even got emotional. I haven't done that in a while, but I needed that because I genuinely thought I was the only one that went through a professional not believing me. And I'm telling them, like, yeah, he did that and he does this. And you are amazing. And I want people to follow you on social media so they can hear what you have to say on a daily, get advice, and follow your story. So, can you tell us where we can find you on all platforms, social media sites? And I'll also put it in the description for them to follow as well.
Sure. So I am active on social media, Instagram, TikTok. I recently started a YouTube channel, because, Amanda, you cannot put everything in a 30-second reel. There
You
is so
can.
much information out there which I want to share with parents. So it's Autism Family Story on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook. I'm there. I'm not that active, but I do have a page over there.
Okay.
YouTube, which I recently started, and there I put detailed videos, about teaching strategies and share about our journey. And then also, I do have a blog, autismfamilystory.com. And
Okay.
lastly, I'm the host of the Autism Family Story podcast. I'm sure, hopefully, some of your parents might be aware about it. So it's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. So I have over 100 episodes. I have been around for around
Okay.
years now. And it's a solo podcast. It's just me, and I share about our journey and different things which I have learned while raising my own son on the spectrum, and which I feel will be very helpful for fellow autism parents. So those
Amen.
are all the platforms you will find Autism Family Story.
Yes. So I'm going to put all of her information, every site she just told us, even down to Facebook, YouTube, because I'm gonna follow her as soon as we're done recording. I'm gonna follow her on YouTube and everywhere else, and be sure to follow her. I want to thank you again. This was amazing. This was therapeutic for me. So I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share your story with everyone. And you want to close out with anything?
Sure. So thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity
Of
to come on your
course.
podcast and speak to fellow parents. So I just want to close by saying we all are in this together, and together we can do so much more for our children. So I hope that, parents, really start advocating for their children. That's my biggest advice to the parents. And thank you once again for having
You're
me.
welcome.
I enjoyed, speaking to you today about our
You are
journey.
welcome.
And thank you so much for that, Amanda.
I enjoyed you as well. And like she said, moms, get out and advocate for your babies. And that is it for Confessions of an Autism Mom today. And we will see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.